Hey everybody,
Hi, we're back.
we're back
And
again.
sunglasses.
I know, like our really hip summer music series is over.
Yeah, we'll
But
do it again. Something
we
like
thought
that.
about, yeah, like maybe doing it once a month. So
What do you
that's
guys think? Is anybody watching this? Hopefully.
it may be just us.
Yeah.
Um, well, today we are interested in talking about some media that is relevant to the Black Lives Matter movement. I feel like that's on everyone's minds. And I've definitely like done a lot of work recently and in the last few years around some of this. And so I feel like this will be fun for us to share some book suggestions, some shows, some music, all the media.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to start? I can
Yeah,
start.
you go ahead. I think you
Okay.
should start.
So I have some sections here in my notes, not that anyone needs to
Nice.
read them. Um, and so one of the I think the thing that people are really feeling right now is books to read that can kind of explain and clarify the Black Lives Matter movement and maybe the history of racism in America and Black history. So there's a lot of titles that I think have been thrown around. Like you've heard the book How to Be an Anti-Racist. You've heard of that book, Brad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have I read it or
No,
heard of
just
it?
have heard of it. Yeah.
I've definitely heard of it. I know we have it. I believe we have it here
Yeah, we
right
have it.
now.
Right now, it's free on Audible. Like
Oh,
the
nice.
audiobook is totally free for you to download and own, which is awesome.
That's cool.
And I think it's also in the always available section of Overdrive right now. So it's right there for you to take.
I
Um,
did see it there. Yes. So
yeah,
that is
so
true.
that's supposed to be a really, really good book. I started reading it on my through Overdrive on my iPad, and then I have two friends that want us to have like a little book club to talk about it. And the three of us are on are at really different spots with how we feel and think about this. So it'll be an interesting experience to read that with them. So I stopped reading it until we all start reading it together. So yeah.
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 So
So
like how do you like how what are your feelings about it so far?
the book, well, I started reading, when I started reading, I only got like 20 pages in and
Yeah, oh, okay.
it
But I
was,
mean,
yeah,
like, I was just curious, like, how you thought.
it was already mind blowing at 20
Yeah,
pages.
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, it was. That's why I brought it up when we were all hanging out. This is a friend and her husband. And I was like, what if we all read this together? So that's going to be, I actually bought the hard copy book because I feel like I want to highlight and take notes. So yeah, it's like a little assignment with like a really great, it's like, I really miss those discussions, you'd have in college where you would just
Yeah.
kind of like hang out all night and talk about the meaning of life and everything. And so I thought this would be cool if we could do that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I plan to read that too. I know that everyone I've known that's read it said what you said. It's mind
Yeah.
blowing.
It's
It really
pretty mind
makes you
blowing.
like think about I mean just like things you don't I mean like you don't even know, I think
Mm-hmm.
like just the amount of racism that
Yeah.
has existed in the United States. Like we know it's I mean people like us know it's there. I mean the people
Yeah.
like we know it's like it doesn't exist, whatever. But like
Yeah.
people who say that, but it's like we don't know the extent of it
Right.
even just because of
Right.
who
And
we are.
I feel like, we have so many blind spots. And so just knowing what our part is in it has been very helpful. And it's another book that I want to recommend, but it's called Don't Touch My Hair and Other Things I Still Have to Explain by Phoebe Robinson. Do you know that book?
I do, yeah. I've actually read some of it. It's pretty funny. Like,
Yeah, she and her friend have had a podcast. They still do, I think, but they got like a show on HBO. But it was two
mhm.
Black queens, and they're hilarious and
That is
amazing.
hilarious.
But I read this like in 2016 when it came out, and I felt like it was maybe the first step in thinking about my own privilege and bias and racism in a way that I had never thought of before. Like I remember feeling like that book was like paradigm shifting.
Hmm.
So it's a funny book, and it's hilarious, but it's also very powerful and moving. So, and thought provoking. So I would recommend that one.
And I believe we also have that book
We do.
on our shelves
Yeah.
if you want to come and check it out.
Okay.
My book that it's actually, and like I feel like part of this is not maybe just talking about books about racism, but this book does talk about that, but it's more of a fiction book. It's just like it is a fiction book, like highlighting like Black authors, like authors
Mhm.
that don't get the usual credit. And I think
Yeah.
one of them is it's called A Brief History of Seven Killings. It's
Ooh,
by
okay.
Marlon James.
I don't know that.
No, it came out, let me see in my notes here, 2014. I believe it won the Booker Prize. Yes, the 2015 Man Booker
Very
Prize.
nice.
It's like a fictional account of the attempted assassination of Bob Marley in Jamaica in 1976,
Okay.
and of like also like Jamaican immigrants in 1980 New York City, like just like drug dealers and stuff. And
Okay.
it's a lot of it is about like even in Jamaica, sort of like the influence, like the government's treatment of like poor people,
Mhm.
and I mean, and also like how like sort of the influence of the United States and their like sort of how they, I mean, they control politically countries through like the CIA and things like
Sure.
that, and how like they had kind of like a role in kind of like keeping like most people in Jamaica like poor and whatever, and like kind of like anybody trying to say things about that, like Bob Marley kind of being involved, and now
Mhm.
like in trying to kill him. Now it didn't. Of course, he's not called Bob Marley in the book. Like he has a
Right.
different name. I think he's just the singer.
Okay.
And it's about the people who are like kind of like gangs in Jamaica that were kind of like basically like tasked to murder him, and
Mhm.
like they fail, and then it talks about how some of them have to like they run away to the United States, and it's like things aren't much better for them there. They end up
Yeah.
having to be drug dealers, like living on the street and
Oh,
things
that
like that.
sounds good.
And it's like also a lot about, there's a bunch of stories going on at the same time, and it's written in a way that's kind of like there's parts that are very surreal. Like people are like they're basically drugged, these assassins, to
Mhm.
do what these guys wanted them to do, and
Yeah.
it's like about them just like on drugs and trying to describe what they're doing, and it's
Yeah.
kind of it's interesting. And it's also like there's stories of like how businessmen from like the United States would come to like Jamaica and sort of like just like use women, things like that.
Mhm.
It's like it's not the happiest book in the world, but it's
Yeah.
just like it's interesting to see that it's sort of like our systematic racism kind of spreads to other
All over.
countries in the
Yeah.
way that we treat them.
And I
And
feel
we're,
like one of the things about reading like some fiction books about, by Black authors and
yeah,
about Black lives is, the importance of Black stories. So we're not just, I
right.
feel like maybe it's not the only thing we need to do is read about Black history and history
Yeah.
of racism and slavery, but really like, highlighting Black authors and their stories. Yeah, and one of the books that I would recommend, it's fiction. It's a children's book actually, and it's called
Yeah.
"The Last Stop on Market Street" by Matt De La Pena, and then it's illustrated by Christian Robinson, who's this
Okay.
amazing illustrator. I subscribe to his Instagram account, and he's so fun. I feel like he's like a contemporary Mr. Rogers.
Hmm.
He's just amazing. Anyway, so the book is wonderful. It's a great book for adults too. I feel like it kind of drives home the diversity, and it's just about a little boy and his I think it's his grandmother. They're just on the bus, and it won the Newbery Award a few years
Okay.
ago, and it was the first and I think only picture book that has won the Newbery, because that's like a book for young readers, and usually the Caldecott is saved for picture books. So yeah, so it won, it got a Caldecott honor too. So it was a big hit that year. So it was really fun. Yeah. Yeah. Another book that I just read that's for young readers, it's Ibram Kendi, who wrote How to Be an Anti-Racist,
Right.
also got together, or he also wrote a book called Stamped. And it's a real big tome. And it's again about the history of racism in America. I decided to read the YA version of that book, which is more like my,
Really?
my speed. Um, and it's called Stamped Racism, Anti-Racism, and You. And it's by Ibram Kendi. And then he got together with Jason Reynolds, who is a huge YA author. He's won tons of awards. And they wrote the book together. And it is, like a YA version of that big book of history. And it was phenomenal. And I highly recommend it. Even though it's a teen book, it was like really written so that I could kind of grasp things. And it was full of information I had never learned. So
I feel like YA books are good for those kind of things.
Oh,
they can
are.
sort of sometimes explain things in a way that's like a lot more like, I don't know, like a lot more like succinct, just like this is like what's going on. Like you're in like they come right out and say it. Do you know what I mean?
Agree. I feel like when I've wanted to read books on like the Civil War or Vietnam War or like kind of heavy, complicated topics, I tend to go toward children's books or YA books, at least to start, so you can kind of get like a good foundation and be like, oh, okay, this is like the big picture or something.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's also like, I mean, like that's sort of the age range that sometimes that things like when you talk about Vietnam, it's like affecting. I mean, they were like, am I going to get sent to this war? Like that kind of, you know what I mean? And like why, and like a lot of like young Black people like get like the racism extends like through the police and things like that. I mean, they're the people that you want to hear from.
Right.
It's really happening. So I think that's cool that you read that.
Yeah, it was really good. I think I was talking to our executive director about the stamped book, like the adult version and the YA version, and she and I were both saying that like the YA version is kind of really accessible and just a little bit easier to swallow, like just information wise. Like I'm not great when I'm like thrown tons of information. I just don't absorb it. So that was a little bit better. So you said you had some music.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, and I know it's kind of like because of the recent events, sort of like come back onto the scene as like the first Rage Against the Machine album from 1992, which basically the theme of that album is kind of the same thing that we're going through now.
So like an anti-authority kind of.
Well, no, I mean, it's more or less like a systematic racism thing. I mean, like the two main guys in the band are African Americans, like Zach De La Roca. He's also like part Mexican, so he had a lot of like to say, but like wow, and I can't believe I'm blanking on his name, like the other guy, everyone knows that guy. But I just think like it's kind of like a cool like mix. It was like the first like real album that like kind of mixed like rock and rap that like was cool.
I never listened to it. So
and like the topics that they talk about, like especially in that first album, it's like, have we really gone anywhere since then? And it's kind of
a long time ago.
It's like we talk about these things, everyone, but it's like has not, we still need to work. We still got to do things here. Like, and I think it like it's one of those things. It's like when you listen to it, you're like, oh, this is like this guy's talking about now too. And it's just like one of those things that holds up from like and I just like wondered because it was like I know we probably have a copy of the library CD, but it's like back in like the Billboard charts because like the kids are like, hey, this is like.
So it's like a throwback, but really relevant and really relevant. Yeah,
I think it's really relevant.
Maybe I should listen to it. I've never listened to it. I certainly know. I mean,
it is like, it's like not safe. I mean, like safe for work, but
it's
like,
probably not.
It's not just like.
It's intense. I
mean, I know, but it also like the message is good. And I don't know. It's got catchy songs too. You can like sort of jump around to them kind of deal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I just think it's cool that it's kind of making a comeback. I mean, they've always been pretty popular. But I think like it's cool that they're kind of back on the charts or whatever.
Right.
And like, let me see if I can find that. It's Tom Morello. He's like kind of like the political spokesman guy. And the cool thing is about him is he like went to Harvard. He's like a really smart guy. But like he sort of started this band. It's like, I mean, they want to sort of like get this message out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So I bet they're pretty excited that it's kind of like come back around. Yeah.
So I would like, and it's cool because a lot of times in rock music, like, again, Black people don't get the credit or like the spotlight that they
Mm-hmm.
should. And this is sort of like, again, holding them up, like
Yeah.
look, these guys can make cool rock music too, just
Right.
like, and you know, that's, I don't know, that's
Yeah.
rare still,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, it reminded me of I'm not sure why it reminded me, but there's one of my favorite poets and essayists is Ross Gay,
Hmm.
who is just this. He reminds me a little bit of Mary Oliver. Like he just writes about like connection and mindfulness and
Yeah.
meaning, and he has a great book called it's a book of essays called The Book of Delights, and it is absolutely delightful. But I would recommend that. Yeah, so it's on the lighter side of what Rage Against the Machine is
Yeah.
about. It's a good balance, right? But yeah, that's a good one. What about
Also, there.
I was
I'm
going to
sorry.
say, what about podcasts? Do you listen to any?
I don't really listen to political podcasts
Yeah.
anymore.
Hey, there's non-political ones that are good.
I don't, like, yeah, not really podcasts. I did get on the like Black Lives Matter like text kind of
Mm-hmm.
like thing, whatever you call that, like alerts. And they
Okay.
send a lot of good like articles and information. Like if you're looking to learn things.
Oh,
Thought
that's
that
cool.
was
How would you get signed up for that? How do you do that?
I signed up on Instagram. Like it's through their newsletter.
Okay.
If you just look them up on Instagram, it'll link right to it, like in the
Okay.
bio. That's how I found it.
Yeah.
And I just signed it. Like you put your text. I mean, you can stop it at any time, but
Mm-hmm.
and it's not where it's like you're getting text every hour. I
So
mean, when
overwhelming.
important's happening or something comes out, like they'll let you know, or even events like you want to go join like some sort of like protest, like you can find that information.
That's super
I thought that
helpful.
was kind of helpful.
Yeah.
And also, like, I don't know, like, if we mentioned any movies, and I don't know if I mentioned it on here before, but Straight Outta Compton is another movie that talks about the early 90s
Mm-hmm.
that, and it's like the same issues with like the police brutality and things like
Yeah.
that, and kind of what they had to go through as like younger Black men in Los Angeles in the early 90s or
It's a
late
really
80s.
critically acclaimed movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Like, whether how you feel about any of that doesn't really matter. It's like, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Like whether you like their music or not.
Yeah.
And
Good story.
it really hits on like a lot of the things that like we're talking about now, like police brutality, even just like healthcare differences between like poor Black people and white people. Like, you know, at that time it was AIDS, like, you know, and also how the music industry, like white people from them took advantage of them.
Mm-hmm.
And like some of them were able to like break off of their own and become successful still, like Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, but I mean, or just even like gang violence, that kind of thing. Like even some of the like the record company, like Suge Knight and the gang people, how they were like taking advantage of them and threatening them if they would leave the record label. Things like that. So it was just like.
Well, I think it's it brings up another thing that I feel kind of called, it's such a dumb word, kind of led to think about, at least right now, is looking at like all the media that I consume and how diverse it is. So like, you know, like I think people think, well, what can I do? I mean, I feel like one of the easiest things you can do is to look at your own bookshelf and look at the music you listen to, and again, the podcasts and all of that stuff. And are you really kind of allowing a lot of diversity in there? And so that like even in your Instagram feed, like who are you following? Like it's very interesting to think about it in like with that lens. I know like as librarians, we feel really strongly with something called EDI, which is equity, diversity, and inclusion. So as we build our collection at the library, we really think of those things as we're building the collection. So there's things people can do that don't involve protesting, which I think is helpful. Yeah. A good podcast though that I love
I was going to ask you.
Why Won't You Date Me by Nicole Byer. And I just discovered it
she's hilarious.
weeks ago. Yeah. And
like, was it Killing It show? The host of the
right. I have never watched
amazing.
it. Yeah. So
but,
it's
like,
really good. It's been happening for like 3 years, the podcast. So I have a lot of catching up to do, but she's really funny. It started as really like how she's like this fantastic woman, but she can't get a date or find a good match, I think. And so that's been fun to listen to. She's just really, really good. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I do like her. I think she's really funny. I didn't know she
Yeah.
had a podcast, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's good. And then I just started watching on Netflix. It's a hashtag Black AF.
Okay. I did see
And
that on the list.
yeah, it's Kenya Barris's show. It's kind of like Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, okay.
So he's like the real guy behind Blackish and other stuff. And it's
Yeah,
like
which is a great.
his, yeah, and it's like his fictionalized, not so fictionalized life. Kind of like Larry, oh my gosh, what's the Curb Your Enthusiasm guy? Larry David.
Hmm.
So it's like that wasn't his real wife, that wasn't their real house, but it was a lot of
Yeah,
his real life stuff.
yeah.
So it's very like, and it's hilarious. I've already
That's cool.
watched 4
I
episodes.
would like to watch that.
Yeah,
I
it's great.
know a show that I think we've talked about on here is Insecure on
Yes.
HBO. It was like a great
Oh, so good.
sort of like, and I feel like people think, well, this show has to be political, or like, I mean, it's just about people's lives, like human
Yeah,
beings.
it's
And
just
like
about, yeah, Issa
when you
Rae.
watch shows like that, you can find common ground, I feel like a lot of people have the same problems.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know why we can't, some people can't look at like them as just like regular people with the same issues.
Yeah.
Sometimes like it makes you feel like, I don't know, I mean, it's hilarious and fun, but it makes you feel like, hey, we're all kind of the same in a lot of ways too.
Sure. It's a
You know what I mean?
great show. That's on HBO,
Yeah,
I think. Yeah. I had
yeah.
HBO Go for a
And so
while
I mean,
and
it's
now I
hilarious
don't.
and like poignant, I
Yeah.
feel like.
Yeah, it is. She
Yeah.
was just in that great movie with oh God, I didn't expect to
Right.
talk about this. Um it's like a murder mystery comedy with oh gosh, I know his name. I love him. Anyway, it's a Netflix movie that she was in. I think it's called The Lovebirds.
Oh yeah, I saw that's yeah, okay.
Oh my God, I loved it. I watched it twice. It was really good.
She's like a legitimately funny person
She
where it's
really
like
is.
her awkwardness is I feel is like something that like anybody can relate to.
Yeah. Her book, what is
You know
it
what I mean?
called? Something, An Awkward Black Girl, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she's great. And she has the smile that just kills. I feel like she looks a little bit like Lena Horne. She has that same
Okay.
smile. Oh.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I know I had so much more, but this was great. I mean, I feel like this is a good little like teaser of great
Yeah.
media that's out there to consume as fast and as quickly as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So next week, I can't remember what we're doing. Do you remember? Oh, you're gone. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'll have a guest
Yes, next
appearance.
week.
We're going to talk about kid books with our children's
Nice.
librarian, Megan Fote. And that'll be exciting. Brad will be away. So we'll be excited when you get back, Brad. So
Yeah,
thanks, everybody.
sure. That was fun.